Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Stand Up Sit Down. I'm your host, Nick Perdue, and today I'm joined with the hilarious and talented Mitch Marchand. Stay tuned.
You are now tuned in to Black Hollywood Live. Stand up, sit down.
There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Welcome.
Man, Prince died, man.
I know. And it was so sudden.
It was extremely sudden.
And you know, here's the thing. We're not changing colors for anything now.
Right. we're just in that spirit.
Everything is going to be purple for the next 15 years.
Yes,
here.
everything is purpled out. That's how you gotta do it, man.
Yeah.
It's rough, man.
Other than that, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here. Finally we got a chance to make it happen. That was dope. And it's a positive week of respecting somebody's art, and that's dope. I mean, Prince left a lot of a litany of great music, a great movie, and some alright movies, but they were still good music in them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I like Under the Cherry Moon musically. That's all he owed us, man, was, he gave us the art. So I'm just, rest in peace, Prince, man.
And really too, because it's like, you as an artist, I feel like your only goal, your only mission in life really is to give everything so that there's nothing left when you leave.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing I kind of took away from it was like, I got to get to work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have no purple rain yet.
Yeah.
And I'm 40-ish. I gotta get on my job, man.
Right.
Prince had Purple Rain and Under the Cherry Moon, Sign of Times, and he had joints.
And then on top of that, he had like a vault of just like stuff.
Well, what's crazy? He also had like so much music that he had to create other bands to get his music out. Like this is a little known group called The Family, which is like a derivative of The Time. A couple of members of The Time broke off and made his own, and it's back actually that song that Sinead O'Connor made famous, Nothing Compares to You.
Yeah.
They're the first group that performed it. They had it on their album, and that's just because he had so much music.
Yeah.
He was like, I need to get another band because I can't put all this out on my thing. So let me let y'all get it out. And so that's when you
crazy.
dope, when you just. I don't have no extra jokes to hand off to you, Nick. I got my little hot 25, and I need every last
second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Squeeze out like an extra 5. Let me get this extra 5 for this half hour.
Yes, man. Comedy Central, I'm ready.
No commercials. You're a New York dude.
Yes, sir.
What was that like growing up in New York?
It was violent.
Yeah.
And frightening. And I had to do things to keep the gang members off me. And for real though, growing up in New York is great. Growing up in Queens, I grew up in Hollis, Queens, New York, which was a nice experience because it was like the suburbs but with edge.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then I used to always be in the city in Manhattan and just travel and see different things. I used to always like to enjoy. I always enjoyed and still do. Even when I'm back in New York, I always like to just walk the street. And you pick up so much stuff, in terms of how to react to people, how to deal with people. You observe different things. You find a lot of things that are inspiring about the city. So I'm a proud New Yorker, man. I love being from New York.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
Yeah, New York is dope.
Were you funny growing up, like as a child, or were you like the
I was
awkward
made
kid?
fun of. I was made fun of a lot. Like, I had older sisters. Like, my older sister Lisa to me is one of the funniest people alive. Like, Lisa is mad funny, and her and my older brother used to like roast me. You know what I'm saying? I used to get mad and cry and run upstairs and tell my mother and father, like, get her off me. Like, she used to just roast me, but eventually I had to just get, I think it was like trial by fire. And then I went to high school and I met Marlon Wayans, and it just went from worse to worse. You're talking about a guy who lived to snap and who lived to have jokes, and you had to be ready every day. And I remember.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man, every day.
So you wouldn't like let you live anything down.
And the thing about Marlon was always funny. Like me, him and Omar, those my best friends. And it's so funny because we always loved the fact that you could get Marlon on the ropes in a snap battle. Like you could always you get a hot 5 off.
Yeah.
But he had extra. And he would just light you on fire. That's like one of the funniest things about, like, you talk about growing up in New York. I remember we used to always go from our school, which was on 66th Street, and travel down past, Times Square. And I remember I was roasting him basically from like 66th Street till about 36th Street. And I remember like Madison Square Garden, that's like 34th. I remember seeing Madison Square Garden. And to this day, every time I see it, I remember that as the time when my run ran out. Because he roasted me from like 34th Street to West 4th Street, like into the Village, for most of the day. Like Marlon didn't just beat you, he buried you. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
But I mean, it taught me how to be funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man. It was growing up. I had a great life growing up, man. It's nothing but fun.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good. And so I mean, like how did the city and like the people in the city really kind of mold you into this man who you are today?
Man, I think the hard work, never settling. You got to roll up your sleeves and work for what you want. Basically you got to hunt. Whatever you eat. You got to hunt for it. Yeah. And I think that's what New York bred in me. It's just that nonstop desire to make it. The thing that still fuels me to this very day is, like the doubt. Like people thinking, oh, how did he get so lucky? It's just I just bring a work ethic. Right. And I think that's absolutely New York. My parents and, my family members and then my boys and, I think all of us have that thing that when we moved to California, it was like, you can't move back. Right. It's like when you make that decision to leave New York City to move to Los Angeles, you don't have the opportunity to say, well, hey, Mom, I'm coming back. Nah, nigga, you can't come back. We just had a going away party for you. We ain't took the balloons down yet. Like you got to stay. You got to stay. There's a streamer still up here. So you just gotta put in the work, and that's what New York helped me learn.
What caused the move to Los Angeles? Was it like I want to be famous, or was it like entertainment?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. It was one of those things where I had been acting in New York City. I mean, I was a child actor, so I started when I was like 9-10 years old. Doing commercials like McDonald's, and there's a High C commercial you can find on YouTube. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna kill myself. Y'all don't catch me out there later on or put on my timeline like I found it, Mitch. Nah.
Meme it. Make a meme of it.
Yeah, my high school. I went to high school performing arts where I met Marlon Wayans and Omar Epps, and then right after high school I did Juice. Matter of fact, I was in high school. That was my senior year of high school. Oh wow. Omar and Marlon had graduated, and I actually had known the director of the film, Ernest Dickerson. When I was like 12 years old, I was an intern on Do the Right Thing for the summer. And so that's why I met Spike and Sam Jackson and all those guys. And so I ended up getting this role and doing this part. And then when Marlon and Sean made Don't Be a Menace to South Central, they wanted me to wanted me to spoof the You Got the Juice Now line, which was cool. And they was like, hey, listen, we'll fly you out here. You can stay. Marlon's like, you can stay with me, hang out for a week, and then Sean will fly you back home. And it's like they did it out of their own pocket. Like that's how much they wanted to do this bit. Like the production didn't pay for me, and I didn't get put up on one of those things. It was, so I came out here, and it was like what I found out was when I filmed my scene, it was like the last week of shooting, and at that point, Mom was like, well, why don't you just stay? I'm about to do this show called The Wayans Brothers, and you can get a job on that. We'll find a job. We'll find something for you to do. Right. We didn't know what I was going to do, but it ended up happening, and I ended up staying. I came out here with basically like a week's worth of clothes, with the intention of moving back to New York, but I never went back. I just just tried to make a life out here, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It sounds crazy when you're like, why would I do that? That's
right.
that wasn't an intelligent move. That wasn't smart.
But if your friends were like, hey man, we got this show and you have a job.
But it wasn't like we didn't know what my job was gonna be. It wasn't like, hey, you're gonna be this guy. It's like, find your lane.
Right.
It's like it was always a great opportunity, to work with those guys. But I think, it wasn't like anything was given to me. I had to kind of find my lane, and I had to, basically outwork everybody again, which, thankfully I kind of had that instilled in me. And I got the opportunity. I think my first job in the Wayans Brothers, I was the stage PA, which is basically like, you're the guy on set that has to answer calls and give people their messages and make sure people have food, so it was PA job.
Right.
But from that, I started to kind of get an opportunity to see how the creative process of television worked. And it really, at that point, I thought, I was still in the process of thinking about acting, but I started to really get into the idea of writing. It really kind of like turned me on to think about, this idea or this joke, and if I pitched this joke, and then, I think one time I pitched Marlon this joke and it worked. And it got a big laugh at a run through with the network, and I think that was one of those baby steps when I look back and I was like, man, maybe this is for me, right? Maybe this is my lane, and that's kind of how it evolved.
That's crazy.
because my whole life is crazy,
right? No, because I mean, like when you think about it, and because I know like people are gonna watch this, and then they're gonna be like, well, how did Mitch make it, or how did and then I don't want everyone to think that this is like normal,
right?
You know what I mean? But this business and this industry, it is relationships, and that's really like the biggest basis of how, I mean, yeah, there are people who are talented who just make it, but then, 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, like so-and-so was hired because of the relationship that they have with.
But also, like, once you're hired, you can also get fired.
That's
true.
What
I'm saying? I think the thing that I've always kind of, hung my hat on is the fact that, if you leave the door cracked open for me, I'll know what to do once I get through it.
Right.
And I think that's the one thing that is why, I mean, I wasn't the only one that was helped in that scenario.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people working now. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where you have to cultivate relationships. You have to be your own person. I think it's having it's been invaluable to have a friend that thought enough of me and thought enough of what I do to see something in me and to give me that push. But it's what you do with the push after that. It's not like you just continually getting handouts. You gotta like I said, everything you eat you must hunt for. Yeah. And so that's the thing that I always try to do in no matter what my situation is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then when was your first writing job? Like when did that come about?
It was funny. I had like this weird arc at the Wayans Brothers during the time. I never ended up getting on the writing staff until very late. I ended up going on a different production lane. Like I was assistant production coordinator for the show. Okay. Which is, you kind of deal, just for people that don't know, it's kind of like the guy that deals with the bills and the nuts and bolts of the production. And I had a cart. That was the flyest thing about that job. I was on Warner Brothers. I had my own cart. That was fly as fuck. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah.
That's how I met my wife. Honestly, God, she was an assistant for one of the producers at Living Single, and our offices were together. And I tried to holler at her on the cart, and she shot me down like bow, like violently. It was like it hurt, But like I was like, yo, you're walking and I'm driving, so I'm gonna keep on driving you until you get to your car. But long story short, I ended up leaving that job of assistant production coordinator because it just wasn't where I wanted to go. Right. And I kind of had to take a back seat for a second, and I ended up, my New York hustle. I ended up finding ways to get hustle money. So I would do stand-in work and extra work like 5 days a week. So I would work on different shows. Like, this show needed a stand-in. Jamie Foxx needed a stand-in, or you know, but even the Wayans Brothers, I like there's when you look at Wayans Brothers episodes, like especially when Marlon's hair got a little crazy, and you see all those guys walking behind Pop's diner, that was me, you know, like, but I didn't want to be on camera. I was just doing extra work to hustle and make the money, and ended up making like a decent little bit of change. We had a small child. My son was like, you know, I had a baby, so I had to, you know, I still had to put food on the table. Yeah, and I got the writing job because of my son, who is now 18. I was like, I have to do something, so I wanted to write a script. So I got with one of my boys, and we wrote a script. And Marlon and Sean saw that I was really applying myself, and they said, you know what, I think, you know, for next season you should be a writer's trainee for our show, which is basically you're like a junior writer, like a cub writer, if you will. You get to pitch jokes. You don't get to write an episode. But you get to pitch jokes, and if you do well enough, then you get on staff, and you're in the union. Of course, Mitch Marchand, you know, there was this one storyline nobody could like figure out what was funny about it. So Craig Wayans and I, who was on the staff at the time, we got together one night and wrote a whole script and just presented it, you know, and then we sold it to the show. So like I was a trainee who like wrote an episode, and I ended up, you know, getting picked up and you know, for the season, and that's how I became an official writer, you know. Wow. Work ethic, homie. Yeah, man. Roll up your sleeves and get this money, B.
Yeah, man. So basically, you just, you know, saw what you wanted, like with your wife. You know, and you just worked at it.
Took some bullets. Basically, the arc of my story is everything starts with I wanted something, I didn't get it, and I just kept working to go get more to get it, you know, until it revealed itself to me.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
So then, now, how does
that could basically mean I'm a stalker. You know, it's like that could be a good attribute, or it means I'm a little crazy. Do it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't been in nobody's bushes in a while. I mean,
there aren't that many bushes in New York, there are there?
In Queens, there are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. There's a lot of bushes. Or so I hear.
Popping up from behind.
Exactly. You old Sharita, what you doing with that boy in there? No, I'm just playing.
So when did you start doing stand-up? Like how does that fit into the timeline?
The stand-up happened during my time working in Atlanta. I was the co-head writer for the Monique Show. Yep. This is, you know, about 5-6 years ago. And the staff, outside of myself, all the other writers on the show were stand-up comedians. Akintunde, Warnock, Tone X, Rodney Perry, Vanessa Fraction, who came on in the second season, but everybody was a stand-up comedian. And obviously Monique's a stand-up comedian. So, you know, me sitting there in the morning pitching her jokes and stuff, and, you know, I think everybody was just into a place where they were like, you know, you need to do stand-up. Right. So I had like this, you know, arrogant moment, like, you know, I'll do it in a month. And then we had like a dry erase board in the office for ideas we would write down. And so I walked into the office the day after I said that, and they were like, it was like a countdown that said days until Mitch does stand up. And they just kept like, you know, every day they were like 26 days till Mitch does stand up. Vanessa Fraction had a open mic thing she was doing, which at the time she had just started it, so it was like it was like perfect. It was like the nice little low bubble. You know how it is, like that low, like when you first try out, like that 6 or 7 people in the audience, like there's no pressure. Right. So somehow it got out that I was going to do stand up there, and like the whole office came. Like it became this big thing. And I remember over the weekend, because it was a Monday night, so I was agonizing all weekend in my apartment in Atlanta, just writing jokes down. And I was calling Chris Spencer, and I was calling Marlon. I was calling every stand-up comedian I knew just to run my set by him. And I did the set. I remember I walked on stage. I had my book in my hand, and I had my little 5 minutes. I ended up doing a complete total 5 minutes. I got a couple of laughs, and from that point on, man, I found another gear, another tool in my bag, if you will. You know
Were
what I'm
you
saying?
nervous?
Nah.
Really?
I was nervous. I mean, I wanted to get a laugh. I mean, I had been around comedy and comedians enough to know that, you know, the what you need to do is get some laughs. So you know, I mean, I was nervous in terms of I wanted what I wrote to be funny. Right. But in terms of like getting on stage, as an actor, I had years of doing off Broadway in New York City. And, I'm talking about, from the time I was like 10 to, all the way throughout high school, I was always doing some off Broadway play or something. So I didn't have stage fright. I was nervous about my act. Right. But like being on stage, I remember, as a matter of fact, I remember getting on stage, and the first thing I did was kind of look up into the light like an actor would do. Which was not a good decision. But after that, I reset and kind of like realized I had to look at people. And, from that point on, it was a good first set. Yeah. I did a set the day after that was terrible, and I got booed. And I still wanted to do it. Like, I wanted to overcome that boo.
Was it the same set?
It was the same set.
And you got booed?
I got booed.
Like Apollo?
No,
boo,
not Apollo boo. It was just like that. You hear that boo in the back, and you try to like not hear it.
You keep going.
Yeah, like hey, I'm okay. Then you hear a boo from the side. Like so, basically the person from the side agreed with the person in the back. So now you got two people against you. Right. But I got through the set, and I just remember like that. It was like triumph. The first night was triumph, and the second night was failure, and that's when I learned what stand-up was. That's all it is. It's
it's like night and day.
Night and day, and sometimes it's in the same night.
Yeah.
That's like you can have a really good set. I remember traveling with Sean when I first moved out here during the time we were doing Don't Be a Menace, and I rolled with him one night. He had like 3 spots. Rocked the first spot. Second spot he rocked. The same set he did at the Laugh Factory, and he just didn't have. I don't know what happened. And it was just one of those things, and I remembered that when it happened to me. And I didn't have the expertise or the gravitas that Sean had at the time, so I was a new jack. So I had to learn how to get it in, man. I just had to figure it out, and so I just always stayed with it. I love doing stand up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, but did people laugh though? When you were getting booed, or was it just like silence?
It was like laugh. It was like ha. It was like I like that idea. I don't know if I like how you told that joke. Like it was like that. It was like ha. And Atlanta's an interesting place because there's a lot of incredible comedians that are Atlanta based. Right. And it's a different rhythm out there. And that's what I learned that night, that sometimes you're pacing, like the same set you might have to pace it a little different. And you got to cut the fat. You know, I mean, I'm a writer, so of course, the early days, even sometimes now, I have to be mindful of making sure that I kind of do my setup and get to my punchline, and not talk you out of the joke. I mean, my setup my earliest issues in terms of doing stand-up was always like just overwriting it, right? Instead of just trusting that here's a setup and that punchline's going to work. I felt like I think it was more so for me than the audience. You know what I mean? Like I had to spend that time to get warmed up, like double dutch. Okay, here's a setup. Okay, here's the punchline. Oh, you know what I'm saying? That type of thing. Yeah. But
so when you're writing a joke now, what's the process like? Like how long does it take you to really kind of put a joke together? I think things are happening all the time in my life that I always try to pull from. I think the direction of where I'm trying to take my set now is a lot more about Mitch Marchand and who I am as a 42-year-old dude living married and having kids, and so a lot of the stuff happens in my life. It's a process where I can trim a lot of the fat before I get it on stage now, but even still, the process is when I'm on the road, I like to do my road set, and then I like to work in some more jokes, so then what I'll try to do is throughout the week, if I can hit a couple of open mics and kind of work that joke to a place where it's now ready to go on the road with me, so to speak. It's like I can't put you in the bag if it's like almost like a shirt. Right. Like until I can look good in the shirt, I ain't gonna put it in the bag. So, for me now, it's the process of just I have too much. It's almost the material is so much that I have to now find a way to condense it. Right. Because I still, as a feature, I only have 10 minutes. If I'm hosting, I have 25. But if I'm a feature, I got to get in and get out. Yeah. And I have to maintain the level of
normally it's Will Sylvance that is hosting the show, or Shantae Wayans, and these are seasoned comedians.
Yeah.
And then everybody's coming to see. They are paid to come see Marlon. So then there's this me.
Yeah.
And they're like, who is this guy?
Well, I mean, and it's like that's the thing about being a feature though, is that you want to be good, but because like you almost like you want to be too good, but then you don't want to be like too good because then, because then now like your headline's gonna have really have to work.
No, I don't think Marlon has any problem. I don't think he has a problem, and I don't think. And the beauty of it is, I think he's been so giving in that he'll. Before he goes on, like they're in the middle of introducing him, he says, "Yo, when you did this, you need to break this down a little bit, and maybe there's a little bit too much setup here, or or this, or sometimes it's just like the last couple of times we've been on the road, it's like, yo, man, the set is getting so much tighter, and it's an evolution, I mean, you know how it is, it's like the set that I did back in Atlanta, I might do one of those jokes now, but it's a lot better, you know what I'm saying, and I found a way to take people on this little bit of a ride and leave them with a little bit of who I am, but as I grow in stand-up, that's my goal, is to, just bring me to the stage. Yeah. That's I don't want to do the pop culture stuff. I want to do, this is what's funny about Mitch.
So no more Elmo jokes.
My Elmo joke was very much about me though. Even in that, and that's so funny. I always get a lot, like, there was this joke I used to do for people that are watching about Elmo, and I did the Elmo voice. Yeah. But it was based on, something that happened in my life with my kids and watching Sesame Street. Because I just didn't understand how Big Bird had took a step down. Like the Sesame Street that I grew up on, it was all about Big Bird. Yeah. And then, and I remember like going to stores and seeing this creature, and I was like, who is that guy? And then I find out that Elmo has like this entire life on Sesame Street, and he has his own show at the end of Sesame Street. And a part of me was upset because it was like my childhood didn't mean anything anymore. That's how I felt about it. It was like, okay, my son loves Elmo, but fuck Elmo. Like, who is he? What about Big Bird? You know, and that's kind of how that joke started. It's funny because I've like people have said don't do the joke. They hate the joke. Some people love the joke.
I loved it. Yeah, it was funny.
The joke works. You know what I'm saying? But it's just not even. It's not as true as I need it to be. You know, and that's the thing. I want the jokes to be as true as possible. The beauty of it is things evolve. You know, I have, a joke that was my closer is, now I open with it and I have a new closer. And the idea is to just continue to evolve so that it's just, I think once the set is ready to be on television, it's like that everything it has closer potential in terms of, it takes you on this ride and, you have a really big dismount at the end. And that's my goal with that.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of your set. If you wanted to, you can drop the mic and walk off.
Yeah. Well, I would never drop the mic. I'm just not that. I'm not that arrogant comic like that. I know a lot of guys that are worthy of that and can do that. I'm just not. I'm very appreciative of the love I get on stage, man. Because I had no expectation. Yeah. As far as stand-up is concerned, I've produced and discovered so many comedians that are flourishing in the business now, that even every once in a while when they heard I was doing stand-up, everybody was like, why are you doing that? I got a lot of love for doing stand-up, and I got a lot of, I'm not going to say hate, but I had a lot of concern. A lot of people were concerned, like, why would you do that? Why do you have to do that? And I think it's, for me, it was me just exploring who I am as an artist. Yeah. It is, it's a brutal thing, it's like picking up an instrument now and trying to say I'm going to play like Prince. Like, it takes years to become that. And that's how I look at stand-up. It's something that I'll always do because it's a part of who I am. It's a part of what I love. I mean, I think the very genesis of why I got on stage was because I kept pitching comedians jokes. Yeah. I remember I saw David Arnold in Atlanta, and I had like a tag for him. And he was like, and this is during that, he's like, Mitch, if you don't get on stage and stop telling, like, take that tag and make a joke around it because it's funny as hell, but you do it. Yeah. So I had all this, I had a group of people pushing me, and then I had a group of people that were like, why is he doing it? And then there's always those, you know, those few guys that, you know, don't know my story, see me coming out of nowhere and wonder, like, you know, I've heard some discussions of why is he on the road with Marlon? You know, I've heard those discussions, and I respect where people are coming from with that. But, you know, it's just, my journey is my journey. Your journey is your journey. And, you know, I don't hold no ill will towards anybody. I just really hope everybody come up. But, you know, that's when you've been in this business as long as I have, you develop these thoughts. You don't always, like, I look at a lot of, the sad part is sometimes is when you encounter a dude your age but still with young people thoughts. You know, like if it's a 20-year-old dude that's hungry and wants his spot and he sees me in this way, I respect that. You know, there's something about, I respect that, because if seeing me gives you the fire to want to beat me, then beat me. Yeah. Be great at what you do. If I'm your inspiration for even in that way, then that's great. But if you just hating from the sideline, you know what I'm saying?
Hating just to hate.
But like, what are you doing to improve yourself? I mean, I think it's all about, like, me doing stand-up was for me to try to improve myself as a writer. I've become a better writer
because you're doing
as a benefit of stand-up.
Wow.
You know, I see it. I can get to things a lot quicker. Ideas, and especially when I do award shows and those little presenter bits, those things happen instantly now. And I'm one thing I've always valued is being good on my feet, which is what I learned at the Wayans Brothers, because, you know, we had to, like, do joke punches, like during the show, when the show was recording in the live studio audience. If a joke didn't work, we had to have options, and that was like a great training ground for me, because now when I'm in a room and I got, you know, Halle Berry saying, I don't like this line, let's change it, I can change it. You know, I can give her 3 options, like, well, you can hit him with this, you can hit him with this, you can hit him with this. And that's how I've developed, you know, being an award show writer, is just being quick on my feet and, you know, thinking quickly as well.
Halle Berry didn't like what you originally wrote for her? Is that reason?
That was my first award show, yo. My first award show was when I did the BET Awards that Will and Jada hosted.
Okay.
And Halle Berry was the first, and it was so funny because just by happenstance, I ended up, you know, kind of begging for that job, because I was doing telemarketing at the time, and I was just feeling really low about my career. Yeah. So I knew the producer, and I called him. I said, hey man, just let me come on and pitch jokes. You ain't got to pay me. And he was like, listen, I got a little bit of money for you. Come this weekend, and, you know, just pitch some stuff. You know, we having some issues with some stuff. And I ended up doing a lot of rewrites on that show. I'm really proud of it. Still a very proud moment in my career was, you know, just being somebody that can make those type of changes on the fly. And I pitched something to Will, and he liked it.
Nice.
And he was like, write that up. You know, and here I am, just a guy trying to not hide, because I'm there to show what I can do, but I didn't think it would happen the way it did. And so then they said, well, you be the guy that goes through the in the green room when everybody comes to read their copy. So, you know, and the first person I see is Halle Berry.
What was the thought going through your mind?
Don't look at her. I honestly
because this is a Halle Berry.
No, I honestly did not look at her.
Really?
I remember because the screen is in front of you like this, you know, so I'm looking at the screen, and I'm giving her those 3 options, but I'm never like how I'm looking at you right now. Like this, there was no back and forth. It was like, and it was so funny because I think she must have noticed that I was nervous, right? Because she leaned on me, like put her arm on me, on my shoulder, and I'm just like. And I'm just letting her lean on me, but I'm still not looking. Like, at no point did I ever look.
Oh man, come on, listen. If you got Halle Berry leaning on you, you gotta.
You know what? A lot of people say what you would do. Like, it's cool. Like, oh man, if I was backstage and Halle, people would tweet some shit. But I was nervous as hell,
you know,
man.
like trying, like, you know, like you actually say something, you actually kiss on the cheek or something, like, oh, excuse me, you know what I mean? Because,
nah, none of that happened, man. I would love for that story to be like, yeah, so after we went to dinner, she told me you so funny, and I would love for that to be the story, but I was nervous as hell.
David Justice who? Eric Benet.
She was. Who? I think she was single at the time, but I wasn't.
Oh,
Hi, honey.
Right. Okay. See,
Hi, honey.
That almost could have been a pass, though. I feel like Halle Berry.
No, I think my wife would give me a pass for Oprah.
Okay, well that's understandable. She's a billionaire.
I think Oprah is the universal pass you get. You know, it's like, hey, come on.
Right. And Oprah's not gonna have any.
Aren't you
kids.
Happy for me? Aren't you proud of me? I bagged Oprah, honey. Come on. Be proud of me.
That's great. So
the same game I used on you, babe, worked on the most powerful woman in entertainment.
Right.
Great. I took her to Marie Callender's just like I did you.
She had the chicken pot pie. We did the salad
it
bar.
was amazing. She loved it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, man.
Writing on award shows, because like I don't really know this, and I feel like a lot of people don't really know. So like, what do writers really write?
A lot more than you think. You know, over the years I've been, you know, I'm more on the show side but also I write for stuff for the host as well. It comes down to like monologue stuff.
Okay.
You know, and a lot of times like with that you're just pitching jokes, and the host is kind of compiling those things like in a like with Chris Rock. Chris had like a team of people, and he was like sending in jokes, and he was shaving off stuff as he went. Working with Chris Rock was a whole nother level for me. Just in terms of seeing, you know, it's like, I guess maybe it was the New York thing, and I was like, man, he works so hard. Like he was the first host that ever came into the office during the daytime.
Oh.
Like sat in the office, and you know, he had his own board. Like the producers have a board in their room. He had his own board, and he like kind of, he hosted the show as a producer. So he saw like, okay, I need to be funny here. Here's a spot here. Mitch, I need you guys to write some promos. Like that's gonna be like, you know, that lane. Write the promos. So like he came from an overall perspective, and kind of reshaped how we do award shows.
And then what award show was that?
That was the BET Awards when Chris Rock hosted.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, writing for award shows, like you like say BET Awards normally like the end of June. We come in like the end of May, and we kind of put pairings together. You know, I know now it's like, okay, what's a hot first award pairing, and that's like a Kevin Hart and a Kerry Washington or something like that. So then you come up with an idea, and it could be what's popping on the internet, or what's popular right now. Like what can we make fun of? I mean, I remember one show we did something about back when that Prison Bay guy was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And we did something with Gabrielle about Prison Bay, and you know, so it was Gabrielle and Regina. So I mean, we, you know, you always try to think of somebody that can handle copy and somebody that can be funny when you need those instances. Like now, I come at it from a different place. Like I kind of know going in how to attack it. You got to write coming up bumpers, all that stuff which I hate. I hate writing coming up bumpers. That's my thing for like last year. Jay Snow, I brought him on the writing staff for the BET Awards, and that was his job. Not his only job. He wrote a lot of stuff, and Jay was a really good young writer, which is why I hired him. But first year guy always has to do coming up bumpers.
That's just all the
because it's tedious. Because coming up bumpers change all the time. Because the board is never really locked until day of show. So you might write them, let's say the show, like today is Sunday and the show is Tuesday. You're going to write coming up bumpers like 6 or 7 times in the next 2 or 3 days. This is one of those things. And I hate it. I hate it. Even when I was the guy that had to write the bumpers, because it was such, you know, it was just drudgery for me, and I hated doing it. So, you know, if you write for me on the BET Awards,
you're doing coming up bumpers.
Enjoy them.
That's funny.
But you know what's mad? What made me mad was Jay Snow did a good job, and it wasn't as like, you know, I guess I'm stupid because he did it really easily, and if he had to make a change, he made the change real easily. But me, I was like, it was like Chinese arithmetic. You know, I was out there struggling, man. I'm not that smart, guys. I'm not that smart.
So, you know, well, and it's that fresh young mind. You know,
I was young then when I started. I just wasn't that smart. Don't make me feel bad. It doesn't help. It doesn't help me.
What has been your favorite project thus far that you've worked on?
Oh man, you know what's funny is like there's a bunch of things. Like I say, that first BET Awards was a lot of fun. I remember the first hip hop awards we did. The Emmys last year, writing on the Emmys was just a beautiful thing. It was amazing to me.
How did that happen?
Oh man, yeah. Let's see. Last year after the BET Awards, I was hired to do a show called the NBA Players Association Awards. It was their first annual award show. They did it aired on BET. During that time, I was going through some really tough stuff with personally with my at home in New York. My mom was really ill and she eventually passed during the time I'm working on this show. That week of the show, as a matter of fact, maybe 2 days after she passed, I go to Vegas and do the show. And it was I don't know, everybody kind of seemed to be shocked that I was there, but for me, I was I knew the arrangements had to be made and I had a job to do.
Right.
So I went and did that job, and I think being so caught up in what was going on back home, it was a great release for me. And again, like, it was almost like the same guy that started at the BET Awards with Will Smith. I was like that hungry guy. I just wanted I wanted to get jokes in, and I was tireless. And I don't know, I guess the producers at Don Mischer Productions saw that, and so a few months later, I'm in the gym and having a really good workout too. I mean, real good workout. And I was working on something at the time, and so I had like this email notifications when I got emails. So that's the only thing I would look at when I was in the gym. So I got an email notification, and one of the producers hits me up and says, the subject was summer job. And then she said, "Hey, Mitch, just checking on what you're doing. Wanted to know if you wanted to come and work on the Emmys." And when I read it, I didn't think I was reading. You work out? Do you work out?
No.
Do you? Okay, so it's like
I used to, but I'm
all
like,
right, but the only reason I'm saying is like there's a moment when you're working out, when you're really in a good sweat, like, and there's like this euphoria, like I don't know if it's the endorphins or something, like you just feel this this thing, like whatever the Hulk feels when he's I felt that. Yeah. And I thought that when I was reading what I was reading, I wasn't reading what I was reading. I was like, there's no way I just read that. I'm just high off. Right? I'm just high off this workout I got going on. So I put my phone back in my pocket and I kept working out for like another half hour. And then I went back and read it, and I just couldn't believe it. It's something I never thought I'd get an opportunity to do, to be quite honest with you. And I was cool with it either way, but it was just an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience, especially because where I was located, I got an opportunity to see all the winners when it came off stage. Oh, wow. So, it was so funny because the day before, I had met Viola Davis and her husband. They had come for a rehearsal because at some point in the show, she had to do a presentation. So I met her husband, and we chatted up a little bit. And then when she won, and I saw that speech, and then she came in the back, and she went like this to me with her Emmy, and it was just so inspiring, man. It was just so great. And then, it just that night in general was just amazing. The best part of it, though, was to be there with Anthony Anderson, who I've known ever since I moved to California. We've been friends for years. I mean, I know when Anthony, we always talked about when Anthony used to work at Ticketmaster, and he used to walk from Ticketmaster on Wilshire Boulevard to my apartment when I lived in Hollywood, and be thirsty because he had walked. This is heavy Anthony Anderson back then, and it was just funny to be there where I'm writing on the show and he's presenting, and he was nominated for an Emmy, and it was just like one of those like, man, we've come a long way type moments. Yeah. So the Emmys was great, man. That was great.
What was day one though? Like when you walk into the offices for like you're like, I'm doing the Emmys. What was that feeling like? Was it like I gotta pee, or is it?
No, it was nervous time, But it's funny because like you get these opportunities, but it's still a job,
right?
So that's how I kind of stay focused on it, not like the enormity of it being the Emmys. It's more so just, yo, man, I got a job to do. And it's weird because I have this thing I have a pretty decent resume. I work really hard. But it's one of those things that when I get a writing job, the first thing that goes to my head is, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to do this. I have this thought every time, like they're gonna find me out. Like I've been conning these motherfuckers all this time. And the New York con man is about to get caught. Now I gotta write for the Emmys. So that's what ends up happening to me. And I think, again, it's the fear, and then I overcome it. And but when I walked into that office, Don Mischer's office, he's been producing the Emmys for years. He also produced this little thing called Motown 25. He's TV royalty. Right. So you walk into his office and you look to the right, and there's nothing but Emmys. Jesus. And there's a picture that Chris and I took. it was myself and Chris Spencer that got a chance to write on the show. And I was like, can we take a picture with 2 of your mini Emmys?
Yeah.
And we took the picture.
Like
and
holding it.
Holding an Emmy.
How heavy is it?
It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's heavy. It's, I would say about 5 pounds, like a 5-pound dumbbell. Jeez. But it's just, I had never thought that the Emmys were that important to me.
Yeah.
Until I got the opportunity to be around it. And when I say important, I love writing. I love the check. I love the opportunity to explore, my art, be it me being funny or having to write something serious. I love writing. I never did it with the thought of wanting an Emmy or wanting an Academy Award or anything like that. But when you're in a room holding an Emmy, it's like, damn, I want one of these myself. Yeah. What can I write?
Right.
What thing can I do?
Right.
What? And it was a gut check moment.
Yeah.
It was amazing, man. It was just an amazing day.
Yeah, and what's crazy now is because you've held it, like it's tangible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's not some far off thing anymore. It's like I can win an Emmy now.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where I still got it, but I got to come up with something that I end up selling, and it's still not that easy. I look at it as it just let me know that it's possible. Yeah, but I'm still working on the idea. I have a couple of things in my chamber, but I haven't come up with that thing yet.
Do you want to like create a show and be a showrunner and like do all that, or? Yeah,
I mean that's the thing where I see me evolving to is developing more as a exec producer, as a guy. I mean, I've been a head writer. I've run rooms before. I know how to bring the best out of writers. So I think it's just a matter of time before I become, the showrunner, that guy. I look at guys like Larry David, who's kind of, started as a comedian, became a writer, ended up writing this little thing called Seinfeld, and now he's So I love that arc. But I'm inspired by a lot of guys. I look at Kenya Barris, man, and his story's crazy. I just love that, man. Yeah. It's so funny because I got to meet him finally not too long ago, and I just admire guys like that. It's like it's funny because I know a lot of people. I get compliments and stuff. And people give me my props, and I always appreciate it. But I look at it like, man, but I'm not those guys. Like there's always something to aspire to. Yeah. And I learned that from Marlon. Marlon was, I remember, especially, that's my best friend. So, seeing him evolve in his career, and this is back when he was doing the way. I was like, man, you got a TV show, you about to do a movie, like, you doing it, kid. Yeah. But he was like, what? But that guy made $20 million to do a movie. I'm not making $20 million. Right. Like, there's, no matter what level you're at, there's always somebody above. And it's not that you're looking at that in a hateful way, but you want to attain a certain level. Yeah, and that's the next step. That's the next step. Yeah. So for me, it's just, trying to put all this know-how and spirit that I still have, and this zest I still have for writing, and turn it into something that maybe one day gets me sitting in the Emmys and not working for it. Yeah. Yeah. So as we wrap up, what has probably been your biggest lesson or the biggest thing that you've learned over your career? Nothing beats hard work. Nothing beats hard work. Yeah. I'm not the funniest guy. I have this insane desire to work. Like I love late hours. I love eating cold food. Like writing on shows seems like a very glamorous thing, and I get it. I know when I take pictures of certain things, and you see me and the fellas in the writers' room, but it's a drudgery to it. It's hours. It's hours and hours and hours. Yeah. I think the biggest lesson I learned is to appreciate the work that is involved. Yeah. And because if that gets in the way, I think everything else gets in the way. You know, and I tell people all the time, man, it's, you know, people go, well, how did you do this? Because I asked. I hustled, you know. I put in the work, and no matter what, the fact that I have my resume means nothing to me.
Yeah.
So what I wrote on the Emmys, like I need to write something else.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
Oscars.
Yeah, you can't get settled. You know, it's like how they say with boxers, never look at your own work. Like when they always, I forget who said it, but it was like when you have a guy in front of you hurt, don't sit back and look at what your punch did to him. Continue punching.
Right.
And I've always kind of tried to keep that thought process in terms of what I'm doing. So when I wrote on the Emmys, I think I did a show right after that. Like the show was Sunday. I think I went to another show that Monday.
Wow.
And the beauty of it is I'm a telemarketer. I'm a guy that did telemarketing.
Yeah.
I'm a guy that had a line in a movie, you know, and I never let any of those things stop me. You know, the failures actually aided in the process that made the successes.
Yeah.
You know, that's the best way I could put it, I guess.
What would be your one piece of advice? Because we got, you know, young folks listening that want to do stand up, you know, that want to get into the business or whatever it may be. Like, what is your one piece of advice?
Interesting. What I would tell young people. I hate when I say that because I feel like I'm older than I am. But like
back in my day.
Back in my day, kids. But I would tell people to avoid the hookup.
Avoid the hookup.
And what I mean by that is, and I say that as somebody who benefited from it. But like when I also said, like, yeah, Marlon brought me in on the show, but after that show, I had to ask for jobs.
Yeah.
That's when I called the producer, Jesse Collins, and begged for an opportunity. But when the opportunity came, I was ready. I think people nowadays, especially with the advent of social media, and, you know, like I get people hitting me up all the time. Like my DMs are not popping. You know, my DMs are like people hit me with scripts and, you know, like I know dudes that just get titties. I don't get no titties. I get sketches. You know what I'm saying? And,
got an idea.
And I don't know. I think it's dope that you have that access. And I've never done anything to like diss anybody because I understand. But I think it's important that there's a lot of tools that I didn't have when I started writing. There was no internet like that. That makes me feel real. But it's the truth. Like
typewriters.
There was there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, so there was no ability to take. Hey Nick, I got this idea. I got a camera. Let's shoot something. We could upload it, and millions of people can see it. Yeah. So I think, you know, utilize the internet for the beauty of what it is. You know, build your following that way. Yeah. You know, I look at guys like King Batch, who I've worked with in the past, and I didn't know who he was, and he knew a little bit of who I was, and you know, but he's developed himself by building his own lane. Yeah. And I think I think there's a lot of opportunities out there for people to build their own lane. The thing that let me know who Jay Snow was that he had built his own lane. So when I met him, I could go on YouTube and I saw a million sketches. Some I liked, some I didn't like, some I loved, but I saw a consistency in his work. Yeah. And I think that's what brings people to you is, you know, when you can bring consistency. And you know, so write your stuff, man. If you have an idea, don't look to another writer to help you. Work and develop it. I'll give you 2 books, and I know we're running out of time, but 2 books. It's called The Writer's Journey and The Screenwriter's Bible. Those are the 2 books that were given to me by my mentor, Devon Shepard. Those are the 2 books I still read because I always kind of reference them and go back to them. So I would like and read those books and apply your idea with what you learn in those books. And it's not a simple thing when you ask me like, oh, just work hard and you're gonna get doors slammed in your face. It's a brutal business. Yeah. This business is brutal. Yeah. People are mean out there. Door slams really happen. Yeah. No's are real. Yeah. But you gotta eat those no's. I ate a lot of no's. You know, that's why I get to be here with Nick Perdue.
Wow. Yeah. Look at you now.
Mama, I made it.
So where can people see you on stage next?
I don't know, because I don't get love out here in LA. It's hard. Maybe at Marty's. But you can catch. I'm writing for Morgan Freeman for International Jazz Day, Jazz at the White House. That show's coming up April 30th.
Nice.
And then I'm writing for Anthony Anderson on a show on VH1 called Dear Mama, which is a new show that they're doing that where celebrities celebrate their mothers.
Nice.
So I think that's a great show for them. But I don't have no mama, so I'm just gonna be angry backstage. I'm just joking. But that is going to be happening on Mother's Day on VH1, and the BET Awards is coming up pretty soon. So
stay tuned.
Yeah.
And where can people follow you on your booming social media?
It's at Mitch Marchand on Twitter, at Mitch Marchand on Instagram, at Mitch Marchand on Snapchat. Yes, I am on Snapchat, and I'm 42 years old. And
your snaps are great though.
But I like snap like weird stuff, like me and my kids watching Star Wars.
Are you walking down the street?
Well, me going from job to job, hustling in these Hollywood streets, man. That's what it is.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, appreciate you. Thanks for having me, man. I had a good time. This is fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys for tuning in. Of course, you can find me all over the internet at the Nick Perdue. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Crispin, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.